welcome to the Big Draw's How to Organise an Award-Winning Big Draw Event live Q&A. It's my absolute pleasure to pass over to Matilda.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to give a little bit of background into the Big Draw, who we are, and a bit about the festival. We are an arts education charity with a pretty simple mission, really. We just want to get everyone drawing. We believe in the power of drawing, and that's drawing in its kind of broadest sense and mark making, and that's across all different sectors. So as a tool for for learning and for well-being and for social engagement. And probably what we're most well known for is the Big Draw Festival. So it's the world's biggest drawing festival, and it's made up of events big and small across all different sectors all around the world. And it takes place every October, although we do also see events happening all year round. So October is the kind of hub of activity, but Big Draw organisers can run their events at any point. And we've got here just a few images from past Big Draw events around the world, just to show the kind of breadth of event format that we see. I think a lot of people think that Big Draw events have to be huge. They're not necessarily. We do really see all different shape and size of event. And every year we also have a theme for the Big Draw Festival. So this year's theme is Make a Mark. The logo was designed by a really wonderful artist and illustrator called Joey Yu, which you can see here. And we've got just a little kind of mind map with just some of the things that Make a Mark is about. So it's basically about it kind of celebrating process-led creativity. So it's all about mark making and materiality, and drawing as a form of inquiry and a way of questioning the world around us. And this idea of play and experimentation, and that's very much across all different ages. And then there's also this idea that we like to explore as well around legacy, and this idea of leaving our mark, and how do we make a mark on on the local environment, on our community, through drawing and making. We're here to talk a bit about the awards as well as the events themselves. So every year, Big Draw Festival organisers can also apply for a Big Draw award. And we've got 5 awards categories. We've got the Make a Mark Award, so celebrating the events that have gone that extra mile to really, encourage exploration of that theme. And then we've got the Big Draw Schools Award, we've got the Creative Innovation Award, and we've got the Legacy Award. And then we also have the People's Choice Award, which works slightly differently because that's very much chosen by public vote. And we are joined today by a People's Choice Award winner. So we will talk a little bit more about that. But all I'll just quickly do now is a quick step-by-step of how someone applies for the Big Draw Awards. When you sign up to the Big Draw Festival, you have access to your own dashboard on the Big Draw website. Through there, you'll be able to access a job form. And on that form, you'll be asked questions about your organisation and questions about your event. There are a few questions that you'll need to answer. For example, just a bit of a summary of what you got up to, and questions like number of participants and things like that. And then there are, in addition to that, some optional questions that you can answer. And that form is available to view once you've signed up to the Big Draw Festival. So you can take a look at those questions in advance of your event. And we do recommend doing that because it can be helpful to know what to prepare for before your event takes place. There's then the opportunity to upload some supporting documentation, so images and videos, and then you submit your application. So really, it's a relatively simple process. It shouldn't take too long. We do recommend filling in your answers in a separate Word document before popping those into the job form, just in case any technical issues mean that you lose that information. But yeah, so I will finish up there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Matilda. My absolute pleasure to introduce Amy Brocklesby and Sorrel from Kingsdale Foundation School, the winners of the Drawn Together Award 2025.
Thank you so much. Hello. Hello. Hi, I'm Amy. This is Sorrel, obviously. So yes, we were very, very lucky to be the very proud winners of the Drawn Together Award. We love the Big Draw. We've entered it numerous times, and we've been very lucky, being quite successful over the years. So yeah, so we've to win the Big Draw, the actual title prize this year was really special. And I think one of the things that we have always enjoyed in our entries is thinking about so you give these amazing themes, and then we at Kingsdale like discuss amongst us as staff and with the students.
We enjoy that bit, don't we? Like, what are we going to make?
Yeah, what is it we're going to make? So like, what is it we're going to make? But also like, how can we find like a deeper meaning within the title that you give us? So for example, Drawn Together, we were thinking, okay, like literally drawing together, actually what is it that makes Kingsdale really special? So we were really building on kind of the idea of community, collaboration, the different skill sets within the school. We did a bit cross collaborative work as well. So thinking about like what the title means to us, which obviously we met very well this year. Thank you very much for acknowledging that. But also like what the outcome could be. So we kind of think about the activities we could do, but then also at this point, a bit to what you were saying before about reading through the documentation at the end, think about what is it we're going to actually present as our outcome for the big draw, which I think has been one of the reasons we've been kind of successful.
We know that the most amount of people you can engage, the better. So we tend to try and create things that are big. Big draw. And things that are interactive.
Absolutely.
Because it tends to engage people better, we think.
Definitely. And that's something that we can have as a kind of legacy piece in the school. So that first image was our weaving we did for this year for the big draw. So we created a massive
weaving fence panels,
exactly. This was another previous one we did, which was like a patchwork which was drawn to life. So actually that one was about connectivity through the internet, basically. So textiles work in real life, and then we did a video outcome for our entry in 2018. So that was a video outcome in the end that we created then.
So we know that the Big Door's aim is to involve as many people as possible. So we really try and see where we can integrate it across our whole school. So we not only try and integrate it into our schemes of work, so actually in the lessons, which in our school is huge. We've got about 450 kids in a year group. So if 2 year groups take part, that's already, 900. And then we have loads of kind of school events. We have a huge culture day in July where the entire school plus families come and celebrate. So this was our ignition, ours was our starting point. So we had an empty fence panel here, you can see. And it was lovely seeing parents and children think about memories that they could draw together and weave in. And we had some incredible things, like one parent was Russian and she wrote this number, and I wondered what it was, and she said, this was the number, this was the name of my school in Russia. They're given numbers. So it's like fascinating to see all these things drawing together.
Definitely. And just like spread creativity amongst to parents as well and to other wider members of the community. And also what we don't it isn't just drawing, it's drawing, as you say, in the wider sense. So we were doing like heat press paintings, we were doing things with stitch. So it's all sorts of different materials involved as well. So this has been something that we found really helpful when we've been presenting our ideas across the department in the school, is to kind of create it kind of keeps the consistency, doesn't it? So we created some slides that are kind of inspirational starting points, so that teachers don't have to think too much themselves about what they're kind of introducing in their clubs or lessons. So Matilda, you can kind of whiz through these a little bit. So setting clear intentions, that was the textiles. This was an idea for like the fine arts students to do like mini portrait tags within this weaving idea, so this could all be incorporated. We did some sellotape trappings, which was really lovely, and the students then drew from their sellotape trappings. So it's like, what is it we can do? How can we extend it? How does that then, and there was quite a nice kind of element of not control, but kind of keeping it, because everything was in a long strip. It had
an aesthetic that was lend itself to weaving, basically. That's the whole idea. And then it had an overall kind of joyful aesthetic, didn't it?
So like a boundary within like what you were making, but it could be made out of anything. And so then we did photography, which was really nice, ideas for the photographers. And then I think modern foreign languages got involved. And so we do graphics as well here, so kind of how the graphics students could incorporate their work into it. And then we also spread it out to the wider communities, the sort of across curricula. So we did something that English and modern foreign languages could potentially get involved with as well. So we kind of really, lots of different elements.
Try to reach out everywhere, don't we? So clubs is a big one too. So wherever you can, curriculum, clubs, events, weave it in.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So this is an example of the year eights. They were doing something in clubs, so they've made these sellotape trappings and then we're drawing from them. So it's just like really kind of, getting participation in as much as we could, in year sevens in there.
And we're quite good at getting the kids involved.
Yeah.
So obviously we had thousands of bits of strips that then needed weaving in. So and then, making the video and things like that, trying to give them a bit of ownership
completely. Yeah, that was the sixth formers getting involved. It was year seven lessons. And then this was really fun. This was kind of, so students who hadn't necessarily been involved in the making, we decided at lunchtime just to get the panels up, and the students just came along and were really intrigued as to what was going on. And so we got, lots of students got involved with kind of engaging with the weaving, and then it prompted lots of conversations and just made it like a really wonderful kind of wider school activity. And then even now we see them standing by it, kind of looking at all the details, the little bits and pieces that are in this weaving.
So it's on permanent display as well. So our school's quite good at showing things off and like keeping things up there that are should be shown.
So that's with our exhibition next week as well. So that'll be another opportunity to show off this wonderful and promote the big draw as well. So that was really successful. As we said, the students took ownership. And then that's it really, isn't it? I guess it's just how to present the outcomes. So this was another one of our entries where we did like really beautiful photographs of the garments that the children had made for that project. But with this one as well, we photographed the panels, and then we just put it, this was sort of more straightforward as a drawn piece, but also really thinking about the written element that comes with it. So Matilda was talking about that document. It's really important, I think, as you're going along as well, to keep tabs on numbers of people in clubs, like when we did all the things, and really like some of the conversations that happened around it with the students, to see like how much got to get their input into it as well. But this was a particularly fun one, wasn't it? Because it was relatively easy to organise as well, which was also quite nice when you're kind of with time constraints. So effective. And then obviously at the end, thank you, Big Draw, for getting us involved.
Love the Big Draw.
And got the students to make a lovely video at the end. And they were very proud of what they've done. So amazing. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, both. That was really it's very heartwarming to see. So it's my absolute pleasure now to introduce Amanda from Leeds Art Gallery, winner of the Creative Innovation Award 2025.
Oh, hello everyone. So my fantastic drawing could describe this as observation drawing of the front of the art gallery, the library and the town hall. For those that know the gallery, the windows stand out, and are the windows that stand out in this drawing too. So I'm going to read from my notes initially and then spring through the slides. So I'm thinking through the Big Draw event, which October 25, which was half-term holiday activity for families. I can't quite yet own the innovation element, the prize, but I so love it. Of all the things, it's a gift to me. So this is thinking through a Big Draw event. So for me, it's mark making for meaning making connected to an exhibition. This is my job, to foster audience engagement with art within Leeds Art Gallery. I understand this to be an act of audience-facing interpretation, not dissimilar to a label or a catalogue, but that doesn't work for everyone. So if I'm thinking about families, I'm thinking about Big Draw, what do I need to do? So on this particular occasion, the exhibition was a series of portraits, not necessarily as we imagine them to be, which were either selected or made by Leonette Yildirim Boche. It was quite a significant exhibition within the gallery. There's much that I can say about mark making, its capacities to draw out memories, to draw out noticing, and to draw out imagination. For me, I enjoy how diverse peoples of different ages are drawn to drawing, even if they profess to be unable to do it. The quiet doodle on the corner of the page. Ivan drawing, which frankly, what looked like scribble to me says to me, the blue is water, the red is fish. Mark making is incredibly exciting. So the 3 ingredients that were significant to the project at Leeds Art Gallery, the one that subsequently becomes innovative, hurrah, are the context in which I was working, the artist, and thinking about audience and needs as I best could imagine them. So what makes something special? Central for me is an artist, not a dead white male artist, but someone who can act as a role model, making visible the work of creative thinking and making. Someone with a strong and active practice and skills in communication and fostering creativity. For 2025, mine was Nicola Pemberton. I have a long history of experimenting with Nicola, and this word experimentation will make sense in a minute. And I think what emerged was extraordinary because of our capacities to experiment and play together meaningfully for an audience. So this is Leeds Art Gallery. This is how it was in the 19th century. This is relevant because it's quite busy with all sorts of people, including children, and has this extraordinary architecture. This is apparently the experience of being with an artwork in the 19th century. It's a painting by O'Neill called Public Opinion. You notice I forget his first name because I really should have written it down, but I didn't. I'm most interested in the careful noticing. I'm also interested in the formal interpretation in the form of a handout. Leeds Art Gallery has changed over time. This scale, which was in 1888 when it first built, the extraordinary glass barrel ceiling is still here, but very different. Typically, family interaction would happen in this area, which is called art space. People are used to extraordinary things happening in here. Everything within it connects to an exhibition and acts as a form of audience-facing interpretation. And it can be really busy. This is, in fact, a not so busy, except the interaction was busy, image from May-June half-term holiday with an artist called Laura Slater, turning collage into 3 dimensions. So art space was closed. They were changing an exhibition over. I couldn't get into it. And I was faced with working in the upper part of that Victorian image that is now called Central Court with a concrete floor. It's vast. It swallows people. I didn't know what to do. Half-term holiday, I knew I wanted to do drawing. I got in touch with Nicola. So Nicola's here in the red t-shirt. There's always a danger when you have an idea that you kind of make people an instrument of your concept, your pre-visualization. But I like to think that we are quite careful with that. We offer provocations and then follow the lead of the audiences. I guess you could call it co-production, but that's a bit tentative. So Nicola and I, some years ago, had played with the idea of making portraits by wrapping paper around people. And I should say that Nicola is an experimental drawer in her practice. So she draws by bouncing up and down on trampolines and things like that. So she's very comfortable with experimental mark making. So the idea of wrapping people in paper or people wrapping each other and then drawing on the creases, which then begins to define almost a portrait. So we had this idea. We had no idea whether it would work in this space, the scale, but the outcome was extraordinary. I'm sorry, I don't have so many pictures of people participating. I find it difficult to photograph at the same time, and also ethically, it's their work, not my work. So I kind of struggle with the documentation side of things. But we do have this one, and I think you can feel the engagement, the absorption I think you can witness the portraitness of this drawing in 3 dimensions and drawing on the 3 dimensions to make more drawing. On the slide with Nicola and the black fabric, we experimented. We thought, oh, this is great. What about if we got this huge piece of fabric and we used tailor's chalk and drew again on the form of people, drew on the form of people underneath the fabric, but in honesty, it didn't work. So part of the key aspect of anything that's innovative or imaginative for me is the conversations that the artists and I are having all the time to find new provocations that suit the audience, built on the learning, in this case from the day before. We're left with the legacy. People were moving the drawings in 3 dimensions around the room. They were stacking them. People were flattening them. It was the most glorious thing, which unexpectedly enticed more adults to draw and mark make. And there was something about doing this particular activity in Central Court, away from the typical family space, which seemed to give adults more permission to become involved in creating and making and thinking. And so I will end here and just say, working with an artist and working collaboratively and trusting in your own capacities to problem solve and make playful environments that feel safe for people can produce extraordinary experiences for both you and for the people that choose to take part. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda. That was lovely. It's my pleasure now to announce Alice Prentice of Isle of Riso, winner of the People's Choice Award 2025. Take it away, Alice.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. As said, I'm Alice Prentice and I run Isle of Riso, which is a community-led creative studio based in Inverness in Scotland. And I'm here to talk about my award-winning event, which for us was Big Draw Festival edition of our Drink and Draw hosted by Isle of Riso. We were delighted to win the People's Choice Award for the Big Draw Festival in our first year of being a member of the Big Draw. And what we loved most about the feedback received was that time and time again, people talked about how it felt to be a drink and draw. They said it felt welcoming and accessible and that anyone could take part regardless of artistic ability. So what I want to do today is translate those feelings into practical choices, because welcoming can sound like a personality trait of certain people, like Highlanders of Scotland, but I genuinely believe that it is designed and anyone can do it. Drink and Draw itself is a bring your own bottle public monthly creative social event with about 35 people attending each month. And what made that session work in October last year is the same stuff that makes it work every month. I think it comes down to 4 repeatable decisions, 4 things we do again and again. One is reduce uncertainty, create a sense of belonging, thoughtfully design activities, and keep improving. So first, we reduce uncertainty. Communication is part of care, and when people know what's happening, where things are, and who to ask, they can relax. And when we know that we can relax, we can start making things. Before anyone arrives, we make sure that our event description is clear, not too long, but detailed enough that you can actually know what you're walking into. We invite people to share accessibility requirements before, but we try to design the night so you do not have to ask in the first place. People get an extensive registration email with what to expect, what to bring, and where to find us. And if anything changes, we tell people. We do not just hope that everyone figures it out. And that carries on into the room. People are greeted by me at the door, as you can see here. They know I'm the point of contact. I always ask if they're new or if they've been before. At the moment, we've had about 270 people come to Drink and Draw, so I cannot know everyone, but I can always make sure each person feels seen. I point out where to find free tea and coffee, I tell them where all the materials are, and I tell them that what time we'll start the activity and how to get comfortable until then. Later, I do a quick welcome announcement so people know the shape of the night, where the toilets are, and basic safety stuff. All this to say that clear communication is part of accessibility, being greeted is part of accessibility, and knowing where the toilets are is part of accessibility. It's not something grand and special, it's small, careful acts that reduce uncertainty. So the second decision is creating a sense of belonging. Name tags are the simplest example. We tell everyone to wear one. Pronouns are optional, but welcome. And it sounds tiny, but it changes a lot and reduces that social friction for people of all walks of life that come. It makes it easier to say hello, and it removes that awkward moment of I've spoken to you 3 times and I cannot remember your name, which we've all been there for. We also add small community side quests that anyone can opt into throughout the evening. One of these is our postcard swap wall, which you can see in the picture here. This is where you can make a quick drawing or kind message, pin it up, and then you trade it to take one home that speaks to you. Because some people don't always want to go home with their own work. Sometimes they want to admire someone else's, something that like made them laugh, inspired them, or made them feel seen. And that tiny exchange turns a room of individuals into a shared thing. Seeing people pause, read, and admire each other's works and try pick just one is one of my favorite parts of the night. And we also have like many other side quests, like we've made like bingo cards and other activities that are smaller and like just like they can do themselves without necessarily having to take part in the grander activity in the room. Our third decision is how we design the creative part of the night. And we design activities to remove pressure completely. A lot of people arrive carrying this story that they cannot draw, usually because at some point in their life, someone has told them directly or indirectly that drawing is only for talented people, and they've never stopped thinking that. So we design activities that interrupt that story, and we make it clear that there's no critique. We actually always say out loud, you do not need to produce a masterpiece. You can doodle, you can collage, you can take your time, you can even watch someone else. And some people do just come to chat. So we make it clear that things are optional but still approachable. And we use time limits in our activities always. We've found again and again that it adds healthy pressure that stops people from overthinking and gets people making. So to give an example of one of our activities we designed for the Big Draw Festival, which is pictured here, in case you're preparing for this year, is the Big Draw theme was drawn together, and it was sponsored by Rington's Tea. So me and my partner designed these big A2 tea party scenes in 4 different whimsical worlds. One was under the sea, one was in outer space, and one was in a mythical forest, and one was a castle gardens. We split the room into 4 teams and we distributed people like we do in school rather than letting them just stick with their mates, because that supports the social side of our night. And each team decorated the tea party together, and I went around as a facilitator giving wee ideas if people got stuck, encouraging everyone to make their mark and having a good giggle at what was emerging. And it's important to say that even if someone didn't want to draw, they could still be a storyteller, suggesting ideas and shaping the scene. And that still counts, and that is still drawing together. And then each team shared what they made to the room, and we all shared in each other's hilarious creations. It really forced people to use their imagination and create scenes and stories outside of their reality. The fourth decision is we keep improving. So we ask for feedback every single time. I remind people constantly to fill out our feedback forms, because it's only through feedback that the night keeps developing. Drink and Draw since day one has never stopped. We've been going every month for 2 years, and it's never stayed the same. It changes because people tell us what helps and what doesn't. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture to go with this, but I feel really strongly about materials. I feel wholeheartedly that we do not need to be buying the cheapest of cheap materials for creative events. Cheap materials can become a barrier, and people end up thinking that they're the problem when actually the tools are fighting them. Good materials make it easier to get a result that you're happy with, and it makes it easier to relax and keep going. And like I said at the start, if we can relax, then we can make. I know it's a big ask financially, but where you can, I recommend prioritizing it through donations, through sponsors, or other means. We were lucky enough to receive prize money for our big draw award, and we've invested it by upgrading our bank of materials again. And we've already been told that it has changed how empowered people feel at the table. It gives them access to something they may not be able to afford themselves. So when I look back at the award feedback that we were really lucky to receive when receiving the award, I see words like warm, welcoming, inclusive, accessible, empowering, encouraging, relaxing, and community. And I can point to those 4 decisions that I've discussed. Being award winning is not like one big trick. It is dozens of small acts of care repeated consistently until the room becomes a tradition. And if I had one takeaway in anyone organising a big draw event, it would be this: that you design for the person who is nervous, the person who thinks they cannot draw, the person who has arrived alone. And if that person feels welcomed and held, then everyone else will too. So thank you so much. I could talk endlessly about Drink and Draw and everything we've learned from building it. So if anyone has questions beyond this event, please do get in touch with me at info@iloveresal.com.
Thank you so much, Alice. Thank you for that. So I'm going to jump on to the Q&As. We've had a couple through. So this question is from an organiser. How do you manage to document/gather feedback for the awards entry when you are leading an event and part of a smaller team?
Cool. Yeah, so I'm technically a team of 1.5, my partner. But yeah, it is quite challenging. I find, so as I mentioned in my talk, that we ask for feedback every time. So we have a feedback form that I remind people about every single Drink and Draw in the announcement that I do at the start. And they get a reminder via email to fill it in. For the People's Choice Awards, we changed the form on the night to be the one that is with the big draw on the page. And I remember sending out a newsletter kind of recapping what we did for the big draw and asking people to fill it in then. And also, I think in January, I made an Instagram video where I shared videos and snapshots from the night, which was really strange for me as a Scottish person asking for some sort of recognition. But it is mostly through generally asking for feedback all the time. We've always had really nice comments. And for me, it was about celebrating the people that keep coming back, and making sure that Drink and Draw is not just for me, it's kind of for everyone. So if this small thing in Inverness is being recognised, then it's just nice to be able to give back. So it's mostly feedback forms, but it's also constant reminders.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alice. And this isn't part of the question, but I'd like to just open it up actually to our other speakers as well, because I think feedback was mentioned in a few in Amy and Sorrel and Amanda. And I suppose my question would be, let's start with Kingsdale. How do you gather feedback in the setting that you're in, obviously, because you're in a school? Is it sort of student led, or is it just noting down and remembering? Because Sorrel, you had a lovely memory about that woman with the school. So yeah, I'll ask Kingsdale.
We take a lot of pictures, don't we?
Yeah.
We have an Instagram account. So we Instagram a lot, as much as we can. In fact, Amy's in charge of the Instagram account. So yeah, we take pictures whenever we can. That obviously helps you to remember. And then, yeah, a lot of it is just, I mean, when you, like, I think Alice and Amanda both said, like, when you're watching something happen that's really lovely to see, you do sort of remember that too. But I think we probably could be more official with our feedback.
Yeah, probably. I think
something we do officially.
Yeah, I think with the big draw, it's because it's like it's like a co-curricular fun activity. So I think we don't, as you say, it's not something that's graded or So I think the feedback also comes from like just seeing how engaged the kids are with it. That we know that they enjoy doing it. At the Culture Day, people were just chatting about how much they were enjoying doing it. I think one of the things I mentioned is we actually do sort of tally up the numbers of people getting involved. So after a club, or if we've done something, we kind of write down who has been involved from that perspective. But yeah, we kind of record it sort of for our own knowledge, but also to put on the Instagram at a later date, and to share like on a newsletter. So yeah, I think that's mainly how we do it.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's fab. Numbers, such an important thing and something that is so easy to forget as well when you have an event. Yeah, Amanda, I just opened this up for Leeds Gallery. Yeah. Do you have any particular routes for feedback or, sort of those like magic moments?
Well, I think the key, as we've already all said it, is reflective practice, thinking all the time. And in my case, by working with an artist, I have a sounding board. So we do also have a very simple comments, not sheet as such, but it asks for people's postcodes and any comments. So usually an artist and I will review those comments at the end. I'm looking for keywords, enjoyable being one. In this case, something about drawing and experimentation. I do count numbers, which is how I know on reflection that there was more adult participation, and we conjecture that's because of the different kind of space that it felt, because it is quite noticeable. And since that one-off in October 25, I've needed to use that particular space again, and it's been repeated. So for me, reflective practice is intuition as much as anything else, the value of experience, and this thing that I think is so incredibly part of our work as creative practitioners, which is having criticality, asking the tough questions and not being frightened of failing and having to change direction. Perhaps slightly easier in an art gallery than in a school, but I'm sure even within, a formal learning environment, you can make small changes in the moment because you're noticing something. And I think that's really valuable, but perhaps a little bit harder sometimes to argue with funders.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda. Wonderful. And this one's not directed at anyone in particular, but this question is, well, it hasn't got a name to it, so do jump in. It says, was there a particular decision or moment that you think made the biggest difference to your event's success?
I think ours was the culture day. I think what we did when we were kind of coming up with what our ideas were. So our culture day, we always, as the art department, try and think what can we offer for an activity. And I have to say we did jump in with it in July, so a little bit ahead of the October kind of starting point. But it was quite nice to kind of have that as an initial kind of leap pad.
Yeah, trigger.
Yeah. And I think it also kind of led us to kind of think of the other ideas we could develop for the project. I think also we'd had a lot of building in the school, which is also kind of something that triggered the idea of it being on this. We've been surrounded by all these railings, hadn't we? Yeah. So that also felt like something that had been kind of part of the school at the time. So again, that was another bit of a trigger. Just the practicality of that was interesting. But I think, culture day and kind of that sort of triggered the community aspect in a big way.
I think that sounds lovely, and it's a nice that idea of seeing that everyday object and actually incorporating it into something creative is a really beautiful aspect. Wonderful, thank you. And someone's in the questions has said, I'm organising my first big draw event. What's one piece of advice you wish you had been given before you started? Oh, sorry. Yeah, who would like to start on that one?
I don't mind going first, just because one thing I've done differently this year is look at the big draw resources. I actually find them so useful. Is like these events are amazing. Like listening to Kingston Foundation School and Leeds has been so good, but also like reading through all the case studies and seeing what other people makes it miles easier. Even if you're not doing the same thing as they are, it's so good to get inspiration, and through inspiration we create new things as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Alice. Does anybody want to add anything, a piece of advice? I think from our point of view, because we have an internal events program and we run the launch event, and that is actually just remembering to take photos, I think, or having someone delegated to take photographs, because quite often we'll be running events and then we'll have this big creative moment and it will be wonderful, and then we will kind of look at our team and be like, oh, did anyone capture that, and actually having someone dedicated to documenting is so good, because we have such a sort of, yeah, it all seems it kind of goes so fast when it starts. Oh, Amanda's just sent her apologies, by the way. She's running a year one workshop. But yeah, does anyone, sorry, Amy and Sorrel, would you like to jump in and a piece of advice?
I think if you can collaborate, because, yeah, it's better if you've got a team. I mean, it's hard if you're solo, but if you can find, like Alice said, the resources online, that might help you too. But just ask around, ask what other people think, because yeah, two heads are better than one, aren't they?
Definitely.
And I think we enjoy it.
Yeah,
so
completely.
It's collaborating, really.
Yeah, it's also a really good opportunity in our setting where you kind of, I mean, we're lucky, we're very experimental anyway here, but I think the idea that you can do something that has no boundaries in a way, like this is an opportunity to make those mistakes and to do things that aren't necessarily, very not perfect, potentially, and yeah, get more kind of kids involved who are not necessarily the art students who want to be involved. So I think that we love the big draw for that. It's everyone gets so excited about it. So yeah, I think that's.
I think collaboration, and then as Alice said, like nice resources, like giving them kind of fun things to work with, and maybe some. And I think Amanda said as well, some prompts.
Yeah,
like some trigger questions and things to get their ideas flowing and going, because you sit in front of a blank canvas, it can be quite daunting. So prompts, nice resources, and some
definitely
collaboration.
And then that way you can also slightly like tailor it to, you can give it a bit of an aesthetic. So if you give them slightly limited resources, also quite good, some from time to time.
Yeah.
No, I love them. Oh, sorry, Matilda. You go.
Sorry, Alicia. No, it's just to kind of, this kind of goes back to the feedback question and kind of building on what Amanda was saying. But I think there's also, obviously there's so much value in the feedback from everyone else, but your own reflection is so important as well. And don't underestimate how quickly you will forget. So you'll think in the moment like, ooh, that didn't work that well. I should kind of do that slightly differently next time. Reflect. Once the event has come to an end, just give yourself some time to like either talk it through with a colleague, or if you're working solo, just make a note of it, because because that does kind of tend to leave your brain. So that would be mine, I think, would be, give yourself some reflection time.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Matilda. Yeah, I agree. And I think that I think my sort of advice as well, and something that I think Kingsdale, you've sort of demonstrated in a beautiful way of sometimes limiting outcomes can actually help foster more engagement and individuality as well. I think, sometimes we've had events where we've kind of had all the materials, but unless you've got kind of a prompt or something, that might not necessarily, it might be quite overwhelming. And if you're trying to encourage that engagement, those sort of things where it starts off quite simple, sort of a strip, but it's woven into something bigger. And that was something that we saw so wonderfully with the entries last year, and just with the events that we saw, is there were so many sort of smaller sort of engagement then leading into sort of a larger outcome, which was just, is really exciting to see. This one is actually a great one that someone's put in, and it says, did anything unexpected happen on the day that turned out to be a positive?
Sorry, I'm going to go back to our culture day again. I think when we were using we were using the heat transfer press in the situation, in the environment which a lot of people hadn't seen. So I think playing around with what the possibilities of that in an unusual environment was really fun. And I think just also sort of, the joy of the people who hadn't expected to turn up and do some creativity, like they were like, wow, this is really super fun. So
I think there was an element of having to like drum up engagement as well.
Yeah.
We've got so many, our culture days are an explosion of all sorts of amazing things. So it's like, come and try our stall.
Yeah.
And like, get in here. And then once they do, you know, they get into it. So yeah, having some enticing things is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Something that actually I find every time that we run events, and that is, and I think Amanda touched upon it in Leeds, is the engagement when you're doing intergenerational events. You might have targeted them at families and children, but actually, so, you know, quite often I think we have a really high engagement from parents and adults that are kind of quite often our feedback might be quite surprised. And I think what's so lovely, and when it comes to the awards, it's that demonstration of that intergenerational kind of play, which I think can just be a wonderful aspect in this sort of the Drawn Together award was a big part of that. But also I think it's such an important aspect for all of the award categories, is that intergenerational kind of play and engagement, and the adults, you know, having space for that as well. Yeah, it's always unexpected. I should be expecting it by now, but I'm always like kind of like, oh, that's lovely. The next steps we have are, if you've been inspired today, if you haven't signed up for the Big Draw Festival, but you've been inspired and say, you know, I want to do this and I want to go for one of those awards, please do sign up. You can screenshot the QR code or just scan it on your phone here. It will also be in that email. Once you've signed up, you can order your welcome pack. This has sort of a taster of physical resources that we have, as well as our digital resources online. Just thank you so much to everyone that's come, and thank you to all of our wonderful speakers. And if anyone has any more questions, please do email our inquiries at The Big Draw. Follow us on our Instagram at The Big Draw, or you can visit our website as well.